Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be about the Jets and their top 5 prospects currently. Now these are just my opinions on these players, and if this isn't your top 5, that's totally fine. Lots of people are going to have differing opinions on this. We're going to start at number 5, and then we're going to go all the way to number 1. We'll go through the prospect, and then we'll go why I ranked them, where I ranked them, and then after those 5, we'll look at a couple honorable mentions. So without further ado, let's get on into the video. Starting at number 5, we've got Brad Lambert. Lambert's a guy that was just drafted in this past draft, 30th overall by the Jets. A lot of people thought this was the steal of the draft, and it very well could be. Brad was supposed to be going top 10 in the draft until this past season, where he had a little bit of a rough year, maybe lacking a little bit of confidence, but played really well in the World Juniors up until it got cancelled. Brad Lambert is a fast player, extremely shifty, extremely great speed, and a guy that is very comparable to Nikolai Ehlers with his shiftiness and playmaking ability. He does show glimpses every game of the player he could be, but he is a little inconsistent and he does need to find consistency in his game. I do think it will be a few years before you see him in the NHL. However, if he is able to put his entire game together, he could be a fantastic player for the Winnipeg Jets going forward. And I think his ceiling is a very elite first-line player, and his floor is probably just not even being an NHLer if he's not able to put it all together. He does have all the tools to do so, but he's just got to find that drive and motivation, and I believe he will with the guidance of the Winnipeg Jets, obviously. He could go back to Finland to play in the 22-23 season, but there is a possibility he goes to play with the Seattle Thunderbirds, which I think would be perfect. He'd be one of the best players out there every single night, and he'd be able to get that confidence back and really own the league, really. I think he'd have a fantastic season there. I think he's a really fun player, and if he is able to get his game right and his head in it 100%, he's going to be a fantastic NHL player and a real steal at 30 for the Jets. Coming in at number 4, we've got Chaz Lucius. Chaz was drafted in the first round, 18th overall in 2021. He is a center/winger, and at only 19, has a ton of potential in Winnipeg. So this year, Chaz Lucius will be seen in preseason. I'd imagine he will be seen in the Young Stars tournament as well. I don't think that he'll be a Jet this season. I find it really unlikely. But hey, you never know, maybe he comes to camp and he's just lights out and takes a job from somebody, you never know. But I do imagine that he will be playing with the Manitoba Moose this year, and I think that he could be a real force there, playing pro hockey and out of the NCAA. That is a huge bonus. He will get a feel for the pro game now, and I think he's going to be ready for it. I hope he can stay healthy. That's been the real issue the last year or so. He did have an ankle injury. He didn't participate in the World Juniors over in the summer. However, he is all healthy now, and it's time to shine. Lucius is an excellent playmaker and has a really nice snapshot. He will be a threat at the NHL level with those. And to go along with all that, he's also got an excellent hockey IQ and just a really smart player, able to get out of problems easily. Now, Lucius could have been anywhere from 3 to 4 on my list. I put him at 4 because of the injuries and just how last season played out, but I do think that he is definitely one of the most promising prospects in the Jet system, and I think we'll get to see a lot of them with the Manitoba Moose this year, and maybe even a bit with the Jets, who knows. Chaz Lucius, I see being a top 6 NHL forward, and if he doesn't, I mean, his floor is really not that low. At worst case scenario, he just becomes maybe a depth scoring option, but I really think that he is poised to be a top 6 forward in the years to come for Winnipeg. Moving on, we have number 3, Nikita Chibrikov, maybe one of the most underrated prospects in hockey, never mind just with the Jets. This is a guy that I never see get talked about, and I think that it's time we start doing that. Chibrikov was drafted in the second round in 2021, 50th overall. He's a right winger, he's 19 years old, plays in the KHL currently at 5'10", 172. Now, Chibrikov is one of the most fun prospects that the Jets have. Incredibly creative, flies down the ice, incredible shot. He has potential to be a legitimate top 6 forward and maybe even a star one day in Winnipeg. He was projected to go middle of the first round that year, in and around where Chaz Lucius was picked, maybe a little bit after him, but he didn't end up going. And now the Jets are sitting at the table at 50, and this wasn't even a guy that they had on their board because they thought that he'd be gone. And Nikita Chibrikov falls to them at 50, and what an incredible pick. Now, Chibrikov is one of those guys that's incredibly intelligent on the ice, just like the last two guys I've been talking about, but an incredible passer. That's probably his best asset in his game. His shot is incredible as well, but he's just so smart and so articulate and knows where to put the puck to find his teammates to put them in the best position to score. So, Nikita Chibrikov, another incredible player that can be a playmaker, be a shooter. He can pretty much do whatever you want him to do if he reaches that ceiling. I think he will if he comes to the NHL. We'll have to see how that transitions. He is currently in the KHL. We'll see if he does come over to the Jets sooner rather than later. It's hard to tell with the Russian players, like Kirill Kaprizov played in Russia till he was 23, right? So we'll have to see how this situation pans out. But only 19, still has a lot to do in his development to become an NHL player, but I really don't think he's that far off. He's just so much fun to watch. I struggled where to put Chibrikov on this list. I had him at 4 originally, with Lucius at 3, and I went back and forth on the 2, but I put Chibrikov at 3 because I see a lot of other people talking about Lucius and having him at number 3, so I thought I'd be a little different and put Chibrikov there. However, both the guys, there's really not that much difference in terms of their ranking, but I'm going Chibrikov at number 3 as my third best prospect for the Jets currently. So now at number 2, we have Ville Heinola, drafted first round in 2019, 20th overall, plays the left side on defense, and he's 5'11", 178. Might be a little bit heavier now, we're not too sure about that, but that's what they have him listed as on HockeyDB. Now, this is a defenseman that I think has been criminally underused in the NHL. Yes, the Jets have players that are making big money and all that with the likes of Brendan Dillon and Nate Schmidt, but I think that Heinola has a ceiling of being a really good top 4 defenseman, a really great offensive-minded one. He's already a fantastic puck mover and has showed that he was maybe one of the best players in the AHL last year, if not the best defenseman for sure. Now, an incredible puck-moving defenseman, and lucky for Ville Heinola, Rick Bowness loves his puck-moving defenseman. I mean, you see what he did with Miro Heiskanen in Dallas, turned him into a fantastic defenseman, and I think that Heinola has potential to get close to where Heiskanen is right now. Now, Ville, a great first-pass defenseman, excellent puck mover, as I've said before, but really good in the offensive zone as well. Just really smart, great passer, and a guy that could quarterback a power play one day for sure. Now, Heinola's in a kind of a weird spot with guys ahead of him making money and more experienced guys there. However, I do think that he's better than a lot of those guys and probably a better bet than a lot of them. But I think this is the year that Ville will finally get his chance to prove that he is an NHL player and could even play in the top 4 eventually. We'll see how training camp shakes out and how the first 20 games of the season go. But I am very high on Ville Heinola, and I'm very confident that he will become a top 4 defenseman with the Jets. Now, last but not least, at number 1, we have Cole Perfetti, first round pick in 2020, 10th overall, centerman, right winger, he's only 20 years old. This is the clear number 1 prospect that the Jets have, for sure for forwards anyway, and he is absolutely electric, fantastic playmaking ability, and he can score from anywhere as well. You saw him play with Kyle Connor and Pierre-Luc Dubois last season, and he was excellent up until he got injured. Did have a little bit of an injury problem in the offseason. He did have a setback. He didn't play in the World Juniors during the summer, but now he is all healthy and will be expected to be in the lineup day 1 for the Winnipeg Jets, and I wouldn't be shocked if he's in the top 6. He's pretty much, penciled in there for sure, unless something happens, unless he's not ready for all that work, being back from injury, being injured so long. But I think that he's going to be just fine, and he could have a breakout year this year. The Jets are kind of going to need him to do that if they plan on being successful. I wouldn't be shocked if you see him play again with Kyle Connor or Pierre-Luc Dubois, or the both of them reunite that line. Or it could be really fun to put Nick Ehlers, Mark Scheifele, and Cole Perfetti on the line. I think that line would be really fun. Lots of skill there and a really fast line. Perfetti would be setting those guys up all day. Perfetti is going to be a big part of the Jets' future, and he will be a top 6 player in the NHL unless somehow injuries totally destroy that, but I don't see that happening for him. Just a really smart player, and I can't wait to see him play this season. I can't wait to see an entire year of Cole Perfetti when he's not bouncing around the AHL, the World Juniors, and the NHL team. I just want to see how he does with great players around him during a full season. Hopefully he can stay healthy, but I'm really excited for Cole Perfetti. Now, before we go, I do have a couple honorable mentions. Dmitry Reshevsky, currently in the KHL, he is slated to come into North America to play hockey, whether that's with the Moose or the Jets in the 23-24 season. Could really use him this year. Maybe he'd make the team, but he's a really fun player, excellent goal scorer in Russia, and really good playmaker as well. I think that he's a lot of fun, and he could probably be a middle 6 player for the Jets. Now, again, he's just one of those guys that a lot of people forget about, maybe don't talk about with the Luciuses, the Heinolas, the Perfettis, but I do think that he could be a really solid NHL player in the future. On defense, obviously Dylan Samberg. Dylan Samberg is probably ranked number 6 for me. However, this is a top 5, not a top 6. But he is just a little bit older at 23, turning 24 this year, so I don't think that he's going to reach as high of a potential as a lot of people on this list. However, he is a really solid guy, and at worst case, I think he's just a really good number 5 defenseman, but I think he is going to be a pretty good top 4 defenseman, or at least has potential to be that. And lastly, on my honorable mentions list, we have Rutger McGroarty. And he's a guy that I have a lot of confidence in coming in to be an NHL player sooner rather than later. He does need to work on his skating, that's the only thing, but he is a bigger physical forward that can score. If he's able to get his skating in check, if he's able just to become an average skater in the NHL, that would be awesome. He's working with one of the best skating coaches in the entire world right now. So I'm hoping that that can all work itself out and that he'll be a very productive guy in the NHL. Worst case scenario, I think he's a very good third liner, but I think he could be a really good middle 6 to top 6 guy in the NHL as long as everything gets figured out for him. So that's my Jets top 5 list right there. What do you guys think about the list? Do you agree? Do you disagree with me? Leave that down below in the comments. I'd love to see what you rank your Jets top 5 as. And yeah, so we'll have to see how everything shakes out for these guys. Training camp is coming up very soon. I'm very excited to see how some of these guys play. And maybe if one or two of them can steal a spot in training camp, we'll have to see. But until then, guys, thanks so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Have a great day, everyone.